Phala is a confidential computing cloud using hardware TEEs, with genuine privacy technology and enterprise compliance credentials. The privacy works. The decentralization does not, yet. Looking at this split-screen comparison matrix of the DAI space, you see the contradiction. On the left, Phala holds some of the strongest data sovereignty technology available. They even donated their open-source DStack SDK to the Linux Foundation, a massive credibility signal. But on the right, the decentralization metrics are flashing warning signs. The project faces three major bottlenecks: an unupgraded Stage 0 Layer 2, a heavy regression in governance handling, and a commercial user base that is still far too narrow to support the network's entire token economy. To figure out if this project belongs in your portfolio, you have to separate the marketing materials pushing a decentralized narrative from the actual undeniable achievements in their hardware stack. This flowchart illustrates exactly how a trusted execution environment, or TEE, actually protects your information. When you submit a workload, your Docker container enters a sealed, hardware-enforced enclave. The outside operator is physically blocked from peeking inside. Phala relies on specific Intel TDX processors, paired with NVIDIA GPUs. To use this managed service on demand, renting an H200 GPU costs $3.50 an hour. Alternatively, the open-source DStack SDK lets developers convert standard containers into these confidential, secure virtual machines. Because the operator physically cannot observe the data while it is being processed, this setup creates a hardware-enforced privacy standard that easily beats software-only promises. Securing SOC Type 1 and HIPAA compliance credentials is not something you see every day in crypto. Having those boxes ticked allows Phala to sit at the table with healthcare, finance, and enterprise clients, who usually wouldn't touch a Web3 project. Getting that enterprise access requires some steep trade-offs. Phala has to operate through traditional corporate subsidiary structures in California, and accessing the cloud service requires jumping through email-based registration gates instead of permissionless wallets. They are turning this compliance into actual usage. We're seeing concrete integrations with Eliza OS v2 and the Near protocol, allowing autonomous AI agent swarms to run securely on Phala's cloud right out of the box. We also know their security operations are highly competent. When academic researchers found a key extraction vulnerability in Intel's older SGX chips, the Phala team didn't hesitate. They proactively shut down all their SGX miners and immediately migrated the network to the newer Intel TDX architecture. That rapid response was impressive, but it also exposed a glaring vulnerability. The entire network's privacy guarantee relies absolutely on single hardware architectures remaining unbroken. These compliance certifications and ecosystem integrations are great to have, but the current paid user base is small. This is early-stage traction, not widespread product-market fit. In November 2025, Phala migrated from a Polkadot parachain to an Succinct Rollup via Conduit. The goal was to tap into Ethereum's deep liquidity pools. But checking the L2 beat criteria, this checklist exposes the stark reality of that migration. The network operates strictly as a Stage 0 Layer 2. You can see the red flags right here: a centralized sequencer, a permissioned proposer, and smart contracts that the team can upgrade instantly without any exit window for users. The migration also triggered a heavy downgrade in governance. They moved away from Polkadot's on-chain referenda and replaced it with snapshot voting backed by a safe multisig. Community votes are now just non-binding signals. The team controls the execution. On the development side, there is an extreme bus factor risk. The vast majority of the code commits for that critical DStack SDK are concentrated into a single developer. If that person walks away, the core infrastructure takes a massive hit. Phala relies heavily on decentralized branding, but with instantly upgradable contracts and a centralized sequencer, users are placed in a position of complete trust and reliance on the operating team. Looking at the 1 billion token fixed supply, this pie chart shows a genuinely favorable distribution. Allocating a full 70% strictly to mining rewards while keeping the team allocation at just 5% is incredibly rare in this space. The critical flaw happened right at launch. That 15% allocation for private sales came with exactly 0 lockups. Early investors were handed the ability to exit immediately at the token generation event. Over the long term, they use a disinflationary emission model. The supply reduces by 25% every 180 days, keeping annual inflation constrained to the low single digits. The token does have real utility sinks, like requiring operators to post staking collateral to run GPU nodes. But after accounting for inflation, the real yields on those stakes remain modest at best. Then there is the market maker. DWF Labs serves as both an investor and the market maker for the token. In the crypto industry, that specific dual role carries well-documented inherent risks regarding price manipulation. Despite securing listings on Tier 1 exchanges like Binance, Coinbase, and Kraken, the token trades at deeply distressed valuations compared to its May 2021 all-time high of $1.41. The tokenomics design looks entirely reasonable on paper, but without broad commercial demand for the cloud services, the asset suffers from thin effective liquidity and terrible price momentum. Bringing this all together on the final scorecard, Phala Network earns a freedom score of C and a return score of D. When plotted on our quadrant chart, you can clearly see the disconnect. Incredibly high on technical privacy, but lagging far behind on operational decentralization. Phala is a DAI-adjacent infrastructure provider with excellent underlying hardware technology. That hardware is severely held back by a narrow adoption curve and a highly centralized Layer 2 network. Here is the play. This asset belongs strictly on your watch list. It only becomes a viable allocation once they introduce time locks to progress past a Stage 0 L2, and once they can prove verifiable, scaled customer growth outside of their own ecosystem grants. If you take one thing away from this review, it should be this. Privacy infrastructure can achieve supreme technical excellence while simultaneously forcing you to trust a centralized operator. The two are not mutually exclusive. Operating as a Stage 0 network with instant upgrade keys overrides any domain rebrand, and it overrides any marketing campaign promising a decentralized future. You have to trade on what the network is today. This analysis was brought to you by Own Your Mind.